Niresh Eliathambi. Well, we have a new president, we have a new prime minister, the cabinet has taken shape, we have secretaries to the ministries being appointed, and it's clear that the caretaker government is now well set. But what of the future? What's going to happen? What surprises will the general election, the impending general election, throw up? And what would the government look like after that election? To discuss all this, we have with us this evening Mr. Kesarralal Gunasekara, former Member of Parliament from the SLPP, and we have with us Mr. Nadeesha de Silva, a noted political commentator. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Now, let's start with a little bit of retrospective discussion. What exactly happened with the presidential election? Was it expected, unexpected? And what is the future of each of the political parties? So let me ask Kesarralal to take us through what went on, and was it surprising at all, or was it completely expected?
It was not surprising. I don't think it was surprising at all.
It was surprising to certain people, certain crowds of people in the Colombo area.
It was not surprising because this started off with the Argale, of course, before that as well. And there was a clamor for the presidential election. The holding of the presidential election itself is a victory, I feel, under those circumstances. But people wanted a change, which I myself said some time back as well, that people are waiting to reset the button. And that is exactly what they wanted to do, and that is exactly what happened as well. We need to understand that over the years, political parties have done more damage to the country than taking it forward. And in that context, somebody has to come forward and say, look here, we are trying to put the house in order. Are you willing to support us and help us? And that's it. And that is exactly what happened, I feel.
Nadeesha, the last time you were on Face to Face, you did correctly predict this particular scenario, including closely the percentages as well. So take us through what happened and what your views are on this.
Niresh, according to what I said the last time that we met, so as Kesarralal said as well, it was not surprising. I mean, this is not a surprisingly actually it was expected. It was just how they are going to win the NPP. That was the only thing which we thought at that time, the percentages and all. So Anurukumar, Disanayaka and NPP, they anyhow grabbed that momentum which came from Aragalaya, because from Aragalaya people wanted a change. They wanted a change in the political culture. But what we felt at some time was that, is it the exact same change which people expected is behind NPP's exact intentions? Because I was always thinking, in my personal opinion, that JVP is the true face of NPP. It's not NPP. The true intention of the people were a political culture's change, which cannot be done by a single party. Now NPP won the election, even though whether it is JVP only or NPP itself together, anyhow, it is NPP only showed us the crowd, I mean, they were the only party, they were the only force which showed the citizens that they are going to provide that change. From the right-wing parties, as I always say, it might be SLPP, UNP or SJB. I mean, people saw them all in one same category, which were just trying to protect their camp. Not, I mean, actually we didn't see any of these leaders, even RW, SP, Sanjit Premdasu or Ranil Wickremesinghe, they didn't show the people that they are going to provide that change which people wanted. So this result actually is expected, and it was that's why I said it was just about the numbers. I mean, whether Sajid Premdas is going to get 4.45 or more, or 4 or less, where RW is going to stand. So that's whether they are going to get the support of the northern and eastern provinces, how the Nuwara district people, the plantation workers are going to vote for them. So those were only like small areas which we had to consider in this election's results. Anyway, the expectations of the people, I think clearly people they wanted NPP to win. That's it, and it happened.
Kesarralal, we saw in this election the considerable weakening of many traditional parties. I'm talking about the SLFP and its avatar, the SLPP, and also the UNP and its avatar, the SJB. All of them faring quite badly. And also, when you look at the minority parties, they were split in many ways as well. So it seems to have brought about a complete change in the status quo.
Correct. Of course, as far as the SLFP, SLPP and the UNP, I feel that they have fared very badly. That's what I feel. Of course, the SJB has managed to secure their percentage of votes. And with regard to the votes or the block votes from the northern east, maybe I don't think you can expect much, because you need to understand, unless you bring them into the picture, bring them into the main parties and tell them, look here, this is what the way forward, it's very difficult to get a block vote from them. But still, for all, they were divided, and in fact I think a good percentage voted for NPP as well from the north. Yeah, good percentage, which was a good sign.
Never expected such.
Yeah, good sign. I felt that was a good sign. The question to me is, as to when it comes to the general election, from moving from here onwards, as to why there was a drop in the percentage of voting at the presidential election. Somebody has to go into that matter and see as to how we can bring those people back to the polling station, because that's very essential. People need to come forward and vote and then decide, because whether you vote for X, Y or Z, they need to vote, and staying away from voting is not a healthy sign at all. So in that context, everybody has to understand that we need to bring much more people at the next general election to the center, the voting center.
Nadeesha, what's your view about this alarming drop in the number of voters, the percentage of voters who went to the polls this time?
Few things, according to what I see. Now, we know in the last two elections, the presidential elections, 2015 and 2019, we saw 83% and 84% of a voter percentage, but this time it has fallen down. In one way, we can think in this manner. Now we know lots of migrations have happened in these couple of years, so that also have a could have a bearing. Could have a bearing. Yes, but still, there is something, and the other thing about the SLPP voters. Now that's why I previously also said, Niresh, SLPP is now over. From the
you don't see any possibility of it being resurrected?
See, the resurrection anyway, but anyhow, what happened? From Aragalaya, what people wanted is, I mean, they really wanted SLPP to vanish. This is what actually they wanted. Whether they told about the all 225 or the 76-year curse or whatever, the major resistance was actually it was against the SLPP led by Rajapaksas. Even though the Rajapaksas have been gone, now we saw Aludgamages, Rohit Abegunawardhanas, and such, all these people which people actually didn't want to see in the political arena, which they completely thought that they are a disaster to the Sri Lankan political system. So this is actually what happened. Now we see even Ranil Wickremesinghe, he expected lot more votes from his SLPP supporters. I know that Ranil Wickremesinghe's camp expected at least 30,000 votes from every single member of parliament who came to his side. Like actually 90 odd people came, but they counted only 70 something. Even if it is 70, they expected minimum of 2 million votes from the SLPP supporters, which they didn't get. And also we know what Ramal Rajapaksa got. He became 2.5. Like now we were all mocking at 3%, now he became 2.5%. So that is around 350,000, as I remember correctly. It's something about 350,000. So I don't think what the Namal Rajapaksa's votes and added to Ranil Wickremesinghe's, which got from the SLPP supporters. So both of that, I mean, together it won't exceed 800,000, 900,000, which is extremely low figure when compared to their huge 6.9 million which they got in 2019. So that was a major thing. And also there's a huge amount of people from SLPP who didn't vote. They knew that, I mean, when you look at how they, I mean, it was like it was a ism, like, you know, actually it was Rajapaksaism was against democracy at one time. Now it was like a religion, it was like a philosophy for them. So it was broken. Now, I mean, the disciples of the Rajapaksaism, I mean, they are clueless, they don't know what to do. That's why they can't go behind Wickremesinghe, because Wickremesinghe is not getting the support of Rajapaksas anymore. And we know that there are conflicts between Rajapaksa family as well. Some people are supporting Basil, some people are supporting Namal. There's a split. I mean, they are also kind of a split, even though that they compete as one person. But in that's why they were frustrated and they didn't vote. Lots of people, they didn't vote. Like the same thing which happened to Ranil Wickremesinghe in 2020 general election. Lots of UNPers, they didn't vote. The same situation for the Rajapaksa supporters.
Now, Kesarralal, today we saw, we had an announcement that former President Ranil Wickremesinghe will not be running for Parliament in the general election. Is that does that surprise you, or did you expect that to happen?
No, it is understood, no, that he has to step away from the main.
But we don't have a long tradition of our politicians doing that. We have had many presidents who lost the presidential election, then going and sitting in Parliament. President Sirasa, President Mahindra Rajapaksa. And I do recall when they did that, there was a controversy that, you know, surely a president doesn't need to then stoop down to the level of an MP. But they were happy to do that, which was very strange. But now, of course, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe appears to be doing the right thing and stepping away.
Correct. Which is a good sign.
Yes, which is a good sign. Yes, indeed. But where does this leave the UNP? What about its leadership? Do you expect that he will step down as leader and hand over the reins to somebody else?
I don't know. I don't think he has decided to step down from the leadership. I think he still wants to galvanize the party. But he has specifically said that he's not going to contest the elections, and neither will he come on the national list as well. So it is left to be seen as to how the others will take it forward.
Interesting thoughts indeed.
And the SGB also has specifically said that they have no alliance with the UNP. That was also mentioned by Sajith Premadasa.
Yes. Now, Nadeesha, what about this opposition alliance which is being mooted? We saw an announcement today about this, but is it likely? Can one envision an alliance between the UNP, the SJB, the SLPP, and remnants of the SLFP? Do you think all these disparate elements are going to come together?
Beautiful word, desperate elements.
Wait, may I say something?
I did say disparate, but desperate also would sum it up.
Desperation, you can do so many things. Huh?
Yes,
when
with
you're
desperation. So, in that case, now first of all, I think we have to understand after this presidential election where all these elements are exactly positioned. Now we have NPP with the president. Okay, he has that executive power. Now NPP has that upper hand. Now we have SJB, UNP, SLPP mainly in three different positions. But now there's a silver line for them, which is in the scenario, which they think that with the numbers, if they just think about the numbers, they might think, all right, okay, if we get together, we can win the general election, because our numbers are higher than what NPP got, like 58% is bigger than 42%.
But it's not always a numbers game, is it?
It's not all about the numbers game. Like, see, in arithmetics you can say 1 plus 1 is 2, but in politics some 1 added to another 1 might give you 0 negative as well. Okay, so now with these three, because we know that what has happened to SLPP. In my previous I previously said in the same discussion what happened to SLPP. Now the value of SLPP is 0, and the demanding power of them is also gone down. They have no demanding power at all. So they are in a very desperate position. In the other hand, with Ranil Wickremesinghe, even though I believed that he has the best solution for the economy, that I still believe, he was surrounded by the most corrupt politicians from the SLPP camp. So now what is going to happen to them? So they are desperate as well. And SJB. So Ranil Wickremesinghe has moved away from politics, the competitive politics, for some time, but we don't know. He's in the leadership still. And if you just try to value Sajith Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe, I still believe that the defeated Ranil Wickremesinghe has a higher value than defeated Sajith Premadasa. He got more votes, like 20 lakhs more votes than Ranil Wickremesinghe, but still both of them are defeated contestants. When it's up to defeated contestants, still Ranil Wickremesinghe has an upper hand than Sajith Premadasa from my point of view. So in that case, this alliance, actually they are trying to get rid of their weaknesses, and they are trying to just show that their numbers are bigger, which I don't think that is going to succeed. This only will strengthen the NPP camp more, because now people might see, people voted for Wickremesinghe for some reasons. If Wickremesinghe is seen with another person, so which he got, he will not get. Now SJB, they got votes for something. At least they didn't have those extremely corrupted people in their camp. So that's why some of them, they voted for SJB. But when they are camped together, I don't think. I mean, actually now when people are seeing a change is going to happen with NPP from the leftist movement, so we need to, if they want to have a proper opposition, it has to be an ideological opposition which has to have a base of right-wing politics and liberalism. That is what is needed. I mean, the ideology was not there. In one of my old discussion also I mentioned that there's no ideology behind the right-wing politics in Sri Lanka. That is what is needed. I mean, without that, without a vision, without a philosophy in the base, there will be no right-wing camp. A proper right-wing camp can be brought up.
So, Kesarralal, I think what Nadeesha said indicates that the opposition parties, the many opposition parties, simply haven't learned their lesson yet. Now, of course, it remains to be seen because in marketing terms, if your brand is not doing well and your product isn't selling, you can change the product, change the packaging, try to reposition yourself. But this idea of sort of combining with everyone else, it seems to be, it's a bit of a soup, isn't it? You're throwing in the salt and the pepper and the chili and the garlic and expecting the customer to love that soup. But in the end, if it's just the same all ingredients, it's not going to happen, is it?
Correct. The thing is, at this election, there are so many issues that came up, which I feel has to be addressed. One is, all party leaders need to understand that crossovers during upcoming election time is not worth at all, because there were so many crossovers from this side to the other side, but they didn't bring in votes. I don't think they brought in votes. So it's a very clear message that parties must understand, if anybody wants to cross over, let them do it 6 months before, not during the time an election is on, because that's not going to bring in votes. And I felt that the crossovers did not do much to either party, even the SJB, I feel. Even the SJB. That is number one. Number two, the NPP has succeeded in bringing a new culture into this whole election process. Just see the way they savored the election victory. No crackers, nothing. And then the swearing in ceremony. I don't think it costs even 1,000 rupees. It's just a simple ceremony. So they are trying to change this culture, and it is our duty to assist them and help them. Now, I would have expected some of the parties to say, look here, we are going to contest general election because the NPP says that they are not into alliance with anybody else. We are contesting election on the basis that we are going to support the government, support the NPP government. That would bring you votes, because there will be so many people who do not want to vote for the NPP, but who would vote for a party outside the NPP. That is always possible. So the question here is, are you wanting this to go forward, the country to move forward, or go back to the earlier era? That is what has to be taught, what has to be understood by all major parties, and work out your strategy. I think everybody needs to understand that they'll have to support an NPP government, and invariably after a presidential election there will be a swing towards the NPP, which cannot be changed, which cannot be contested at all, and that will always take place.
We're in conversation with Mr. Kesarralal Gunasekara and Mr. Nadeesha Silva. We're going to cross over to a short commercial break right now. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
TV1. TV for life.
Today is a very special day for Sri Lanka, and that is because Sri Lanka got its third ever female Prime Minister, certainly a landmark day in the history of Sri Lanka. And needless to say, this will definitely be our top story on our primetime news bulletin tonight. But let's head on over to IMTV News Desk. We have with us Hashini Patirana right here. She's going to tell us a little bit more about tonight's top stories and what else to expect on our primetime news bulletin tonight. Hashini?
Yes, Tarani, today is another important day for Sri Lanka where some of the new ministers were appointed today for the cabinet. Now, President Andra Kumara Dissanayake himself has taken over several critical ministerial portfolios and the President will now oversee defense, finance, economic development, policy, planning, tourism, energy, agriculture, lands, livestock, irrigation, fisheries and aquatic resources as well. Now, earlier to this, Dr. Harini Amarasuriya was sworn in as Sri Lanka's new Prime Minister. Giving you a fact, she is the third female Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, and she will also undertake a few ministerial portfolios under her department, and that is Minister of Justice, Education, Labour, Industries, Science and Technology, Health and investments as well. Now, apart from this, Vijita Herath was also sworn in as a minister today, and he was assigned the ministries of Buddhist Affairs, Religious and Cultural Affairs, National Integration, Social Security, Media Transport, Highways, Ports and Civil Aviation, Public Security and Foreign Affairs. Now, apart from these, new secretaries for the ministries were also appointed. So this is what's happening on the political landscape in Sri Lanka today.
Thank you very much, Hashini. Well, certainly a landmark day indeed for Sri Lanka. Let's head on over right here. We have Jawad Abdin to tell us a little bit more about what's happening in the international front. Jawad?
Yes, Teruni, now we know that recently Israel launched attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon where pagers and walkie-talkies were detonated. Now today the Israeli military confirmed that they launched strikes at 1,600 Hezbollah targets to destroy rather infrastructure that the armed group had built up since 2006. In fact, since the 2006 war. Now along with this, the Hezbollah also confirmed that they launched more than 200 rockets into northern Israel as well. Now, despite all this, in the midst of these conflicts, world powers have been urging the two sides to come to restrain rather from this war that has been escalating in the Middle East. So a comprehensive report on this will be available on our World Today segment, so stay tuned for that.
Well, that's all from the newsroom for now. For details of all these stories and much more, do make sure to tune in to our Primetime News Bulletin on TV1 at 9 p.m. today. See you there.
TV1. TV for life.
Get ready for a night of spectacular talent on a stage like
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are in conversation with Kesarralal, Gunasekara and Nadeesha de Silva discussing the last presidential election last weekend's presidential election and the future, what kind of parliament and what kind of government we can expect in the coming months. Nadeesha, one party that we haven't yet discussed is the CWC, the Ceylon Workers' Congress, which has traditionally been choosing the side which would win and staying in cabinet somehow, which of course suits them quite well, because they are, after all, representing a particular region. Regional politics, you may call it. But this time they did support former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. And where does this leave them?
The support to Ranil Wickremesinghe was not much significant as they expected, and also as Ranil Wickremesinghe expected. It didn't work. So anyway, I think that these regional politics have not done anything good to the system. It's always, with this regional politics, even all these, especially this Nuwara district, if we think of about the plantation workers, how they had this thing done. So I always feel that the plantation workers has not got the justice that they really want. The economic justice was never been given to them. Whomever is representing them, whomever the representatives of the plantation workers go and get sided with, no one, I don't think that they ever got the proper solutions for their education, health and the well-being. So we can't see any proper growth or development in those areas. We are calling that it is regional politics, but these regions have never been developed. There, if you take the persons, like development of health, that's why I said health, education and well-being. The whole country have moved forward. Even though that we say this 76-year curse and all, but we can see that for 76 years lots of development has been happened in the country. That tagline has to be actually, it's just a populist quote, but still that is very fair when it's up to the regional politics of this the central province, especially in the Nuwara district voters.
Kesarralal, would you agree with that assessment?
Well, the question is, over a long period of time, what he says is perfectly correct, where estate workers have not been looked after properly. Those are things that have to be addressed by the NPP establishment, I feel, in time to come. Of course, they will do that, because I don't think they expect anything in return, and they will want to do some justice by everybody, even the Tamils, they have said, even the Muslims. So I feel that that is something that they'll have to look into. There is something that shall we talk about as to what the future is going to be, because I feel with the NPP, it has to be finally a NPP government as well at the next election, general election. I hope it will be on the same lines. The NPP has to understand that they have got the roughly about 65% of the public sector vote. Once you have 65% of the public sector vote, you need to understand that the public sector is behind you. Whatever you do, please ensure you don't upset that. Upsetting that is not going to be an answer. That is number one. Number two, you need to understand that too many changes should not be brought in at the outset, because that will upset everything. You must go with the tide and make a gradual change. Go with the tide and make gradual changes.
But Kesarralal, the NPP ran on a platform of anti-corruption.
Those things they can.
And corruption per se is
those matters can be addressed
in the public sector.
Of course, those matters those matters will be should be dealt properly, because that's one of their slogans. Those should be dealt, but they need to understand that is an aspect which has to be dealt by another team, and who will move forward and concentrate on that. But as far as the rulers are concerned, you can't be concentrating on that alone. You have to run a country, and you have to take the country forward, you have to take the economy forward. So there are so many things that they have to do. What I say is, they need to understand that moving with the people, moving with the tide is much more important than making changes, rapid changes. That is a lesson that they need to understand. If they stick to that, it is good. I'll tell you a good example. In the 2015 elections, if you remember correct, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe specifically said that the port city will be scrapped. What happened?
Absolutely.
What happened? The damage that that did to that entire operation. Port city was not scrapped. It was stalled, and we lost thereafter as a result. We had given more land to the port city project. So those are not things that should have been said at all. This is at elections, you make those promises, you run into problems. That is why I say, it's far more better to move with the tide and then thereafter make gradual changes, because you want the country to move forward. Very simple. I prefer Anura Kumar Dissanayake having several SLA's officers in his presidential secretariat, several senior officers, because they are the people who can run the entire country. Yeah? They are the people who can run the entire country. They are experienced, they are knowledgeable, they have the know-how, everything is under their belt. Therefore, it's far more better to get them to do a job of work, and then see as to how things move forward, and then you bring in your changes. Changes is not good, and you have a clear 45 to 60 days to put everything in proper place. You have 45 to 60 days where the cabinet, it's a mini cabinet, I would say, 4 or 5 members, they can do so many things and establish, make changes to systems. That is what is required. You want to make changes, you don't want to give houses to ex-presidents, go ahead and do that. There are cabinet changes that can be done. But you can say, okay, we can't give you a house, but we give you 1/3 of the pension. That is equivalent to a house. Those changes you can do immediately. And then people will see results overnight. Those are things you can do. But you need to understand, you have to get investments coming into the picture. You have to get the economy moving forward. You have to get the private sector behind you. That is very essential. That's key.
Nadeesha, what do you think the composition of the next parliament would be? And it's very difficult, I know, to figure this out, but if you look at the percentages, and also if you look at the tradition of whenever there's a presidential election, the winner of that generally goes on to grab the majority in parliament. But do you see the NPP getting 113 seats, up from the 3, which of course is not relevant now, but do you see 110 seats in addition to what they have?
Very complicated question, extremely complicated, because still we are not in a position to predict that, or even to analyze how it is going to be, because still we don't know what is the opposition which is going to contest against NPP. We know that NPP is one force, and we have to understand first whether we are seeing one common alliance, one strong alliance together, or 2-3 parties separately contesting, and whether they are going to join hands at the end of the results, when at the end of the election, when the results are coming. So we don't know what is going to happen, and we still don't know. And the other special thing, like, it is not easy for NPP as well, I'm telling you. To get 113 is not an easy target as well for them, because we know that, like, they don't have a force in the ground. Like they have a working force, they have a cadre-based platform. But the thing is, like when it's up to popular politics, we know few names only, right?
But at the same time, now Sri Lankans are used to voting A for a party and B for the person whose posters they've seen most, perhaps, and most well known. But in this case, if the NPP has a large number of candidates who are not well known,
still they will get the votes.
Yes,
now, you know, like when
they
the
can just go
2020 when Viyatmaga came, okay, you know, even if they put a scarecrow, that will win. It won't. I mean, that's how it works. So there's a chance. I mean, there's a chance for NPP securing the majority of with 113, but it's not easy. And that's why I said in the first place, they have that weakness of getting the needed 113, but they will get the support of these alliances if the corrupt alliances are made. So that itself will help them to gain more power. Because the greed, now you know, these people were here in the parliament for like 2 decades, maybe
generations.
Yes, maybe not decades, maybe 2 generations. They don't want to leave this system. They want to be there. So now you talked about Ranil Wickremesinghe leaving, whether he stays away from politics or not, whether he steps down or not. See, we have seen not politicians, we have seen legendary cricketers in Sri Lanka retires and coming back, like not 1 time, 2-3 times. Okay, so this is the nature of Sri Lanka. The people, that's the nature of people. Like the Sri Lankan people cannot be, I mean, the way they think. That's why the political literacy and then the awareness of the Sri Lankan citizens are also that's also a big issue for all these miserable things which are seeing all the time with the politicians, because they know that they can be easily manipulated.
So, Kesarralal, which parties would be losing seats in the next general election? The SLPP, of course, is expected to lose a large number of the seats that they currently have in Parliament. But what about the other parties? The UNP, of course, had just 1 seat, but we can expect perhaps that they would increase that number even a little bit. What about the other parties?
Well, my estimate is that the MPP, depending on the alliances, etc., because to be very frank, I feel far more better to have alliances. Then NPP will have come forward stronger. I feel so. But if they contest separately, it's a different story. But I still feel that, as you said, after a presidential election, the tendency of many people is to vote for the winning candidate at the presidential election, to vote for that party, because they feel rocking the boat is not going to help the country. That percentage is roughly about 20 to 15% or maybe more. If that percentage gets into the NPP bloc, then they should be able to procure the 113 seats. I feel that should be able to do that. But at the same time, there will be 1 or 2 parties which are wanting to assist them as well, which I felt they should do, because you want to change the culture, not go back. For heaven's sake, come forward and help the change, because don't put them onto a side. Here they have come forward and they are trying their level best to do something. Appreciate that and help them out. That's your role, and that's what you have to do for the country. That's your duty by the country. Therefore, if those things do take place, I'm sure. But there is, you must understand, there was a time when the JVP won 41 seats when they contested with the UPFA. And practically all districts, 3 members of the JVP became 1, 2, 3 of the vote of that particular district. Why is that? And some of them are not even known.
Yeah.
Some of them are not even known, but they became 1, 2, 3. So the tendency is people will vote for the party, and they, because the NPP is not is not tying up with anybody else, they'll vote for whom they prefer. And in that backdrop, and the party also would propose various people to come into the top, and with that in mind, I feel that NPP should be able to procure, and the others also need to support them, because here is somebody trying to change. For heaven's sake, help them, because we need to take this country forward. This is not something that you can play around with and then ruin this country. We have done this in the past. We have made mistakes. So many politicians. I feel that so many politicians should say bye-bye and then stay at home. But if they are still not willing to do that, then for heaven's sake, it's good. They can come forward. But there is one thing I will assure you, that roughly about 125 to 150 people will not come back to Parliament. They'll have to go home.
Interesting.
Which is a good sign for the country.
And Nadeesha, do you think that the SJB would win more seats or lose seats?
The winning of SJB, see, if they contest separately, imagine now, if they contest separately, so technically we might see that our UNP might get some more seats, like they will increase few more, and also SJB there will be no big difference. They will stay as it is. They won't get much of they won't be able to get more. And from the other hand, NPP, now the reason NPP is more capable of reaching this majority, the 113, is, now they have from September to November 2 months, like we are saying, imagine 50 days we have. In that 50 days, there are lots of promises which they have promised can be kept.
Short-term delivery.
Short-term delivery can be done. So in 2015, in 2019, this is what happened. Even in Yahapalana, they had that 100-day program, which was successfully done, But it is not a long-term thing. Like I'm not confident enough to say about how NPP is going to handle the economic crisis in the country. But because it's a long-term issue, it's a long-term.
It's a battle.
Yes. But the governance crisis, as I always say, can be addressed only by NPP. The governance crisis, this clientelism and all these things has to be, they can deliver. Okay, so these are the things which people might see, and they won't. I mean, if the economic crisis gets worsened, or if people might start seeing that NPP is not doing that well, that also will come in February, March. Not now. Within these 2 months, you may see all the positives which NPP is going to do. Clearly, that will happen. So, in that case, there's a huge chance of NPP to increase their number of seats, like to gain the majority. Because there are lots of people who haven't voted for NPP, and they have voted for Ranil Wickremesinghe and Sajith Premadasa in the presidential election. But now when they see how Anura Kumar and the team delivers, especially against this governance crisis issue, so they might start liking them. They might feel that these people are doing something which we also didn't expect, right? So lots of people might start being
getting
NPP,
onto their side.
Yes, getting into their side. That will happen. So that will stop SJB somewhere.
I think the short-term delivery, Niresh, is going to help the NPP, because they are in a position to deliver, and some of them, I mean, just imagine some of these perks, etc., which they can change overnight, which they should have done, because we also have been adding on with regard to perks and pensions, etc., on a long-term basis. These things have to be changed, and if they do those changes, the people are going to be with them.
And the Marxist policies which we were always afraid of, okay, so that will come only when the one thing is only when the economic issues are going to be addressed, and in the other hand, when they have a proper power only, they will start implementing these Marxist, classical Marxist principles into action. In that case, surely if that happens, people might get scared of them, and something negative will happen, okay. But this will not happen until they get the proper victory from the general election. So between these presidential elections, victory to general election, the results of general election, all positives are on NPP's side.
Now, Kesarralal, one final question, because we are running out of time. Every government comes into power promising that they will get rid of the executive presidency. And all the other parties also agree. But then we have had several times in our history, we've had parties having 2/3 majority, and then the executive presidency doesn't go. In fact, it usually gets strengthened in some manner, and then ends with disaster, basically, whenever any single party or coalition has had 2/3. So how would the NPP go about changing the constitution, amending it?
As per their work schedule, that is to be got rid of.
Yes, but they are not likely to get 2/3 in Parliament.
No, but then the others will support, because this is something that.
But is that realistic? Is that realistic? Because I remember when President Chandrika was in office, we had the similar situation. She had a working majority, but not 2/3, and she went on the premise that the other parties would support it. But then everything got changed, got hung up in Parliament, and it took years for Professor G.L. Peiris and his committee to come up with a new constitution, and then finally it just sort of dissipated and didn't pass.
There is always a possibility that they will move forward with the abolition of the executive president. There is one more thing. What he said is to some degree correct, because there are so many people who fear the Marxist policies. But I still feel that the JVP understands the reality now, where the world is changed completely and you can't go back to some of those policies, etc. It's somehow better for them to move forward in one direction rather than change, because you have to understand, if they are here to stay, you are not going to come forward with Marxist policies. If they want only a one-shot operation, then they will. But if they are here to stay for another term, then they are not going to bring in any of those policies, I feel.
Nadeesha, your final thoughts on this one?
No. See, he said something for which I said no. Now, my final thing which I can say about, now we are talking about Anurukumara Dissanayake and NPP's future, because it's the executive power right now. Now, you talked about abolishing the executive presidency. I personally don't believe that it is going to happen. That is extremely difficult, because then with the nature of the power, when a single person is being, when a single person has that much of huge power with him, it's almost absolute power. So Anurukumara will have to struggle on 3 major things in future. How to handle the country,
economy,
that's a different thing. The country itself, the government, how to handle the government, how to handle the JVP, and how to handle the NPP. Okay, so when it comes to that point, we have to see how clinically Anurukumara Dissanayake is going to handle NPP, JVP and the government, the state, all together. Okay, when handling this thing all together, the executive presidency in his hand, he might think is very important, because we all are humans. Okay, we all are humans. So we know what has happened to all the socialist states. Ended up with
absolute power.
Yes. Okay. So now here you have absolute power.
At the moment.
At the moment, we have absolute power in executive presidency, and a socialist Marxist leader has got that power in his hands right now. Now we have to see how he is going to work with his policies, and also the nature of the power which he has got, and also the complications of the state right now, and also the government that he is going to form. In the same time, a Marxist party, JVP, being the leader of that, and also being the leader of NPP, which is showing a social democratic color. So how he is going to manage all these? So we have to sit and see what is going to happen, but I'm 100% sure that there will be no conflicts in the next 2 months. It will be very smooth, and everybody will like how Anura Kumara is going to deliver in this next 45 to 55 days, for sure.
I always like to see the brighter side of things, and I'm always on that side, because I feel that the reality is something that is a poser for everybody in that NPP and JVP. The reality that comes first, and therefore in that context I feel they'll fall in line.
Well, I'm sure we'll be meeting again in a couple of months, if not before the general election, then certainly after it, and we can see what the results have been. My thanks to my guests tonight, Nadeesha de Silva and Kesarralal Gunasekara. Thank you very much for joining in this discussion. And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, the news is coming up next. Have a good evening.